5 people.
Mexico, our neighbor to the south, has a huge impact on the United States. This is especially true in Texas, where we combine Texan, American, and Mexican cultures. To understand these impacts, we must learn more about Mexican culture. Today we will talk about Mexico, some unique cultural aspects, and specific community behaviors. Mexico, well, let's start with the basics. Mexico is very changing and diverse and has many people and lifestyles. Mexico, a country study by Tim Merrill and Ramon Miro, describes Mexico's population as of mestizo descent, speaks Spanish, and Roman Catholic. The indigenous population, however, is very different, and they have their own religions and languages that they speak. However, many of them also speak Spanish. Many of the people here live in very different places, like it's urban or it's rural, one or the other, and the rural places are sometimes hard to get to. Another thing that this country study says is that Mexico is modernizing in many ways, and it is affected by the United States. Many of the people are learning English, and in the 90s, they signed NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, to better their relations with the United States and Canada. However, Mexico is far from submissive to other countries. It has the unique aspects stay strong in Mexico. According to Marcela Reyes Cortez and her article on extending boundaries between the private, domestic, and public display of mourning, love, and visual culture in Mexico City, the current Western medical models of grief are extended from the intimacy of private grief into a public, shared, and overtly visual ritual performance. One of the ways that this article discusses Mexican culture is how they mourn and interact with the dead. One of the most obvious ways that they mourn and interact with the dead is like Day of the Dead celebrations, which most people know about, taking place around every Halloween, where they celebrate their ancestors and their dead loved ones. And this really different change comes from the 1920s, where there was a cultural revolution in Mexico and a real search for a national identity. According to the Mexico A Country Study, it describes Mexico as dealing with 400 years of Europeans' attempt to civilize and evangelize the country. And after the revolution and its independence in the late 19th century, Mexico wanted to reclaim a lot of its traditional cultures. National identity is very important to them, and it relies on communities and cooperation. Mexico's culture can be described as collectivist and organizational. Collectivist cultures value the group over the individual. And according to, once again, the article on grief and mourning, people are supported in their grief. It is not something that's private. It is something that the public understands and the community takes part in. However, this is different from the United States, which has more of an individualistic culture, meaning that they value the individual and the individual's success. The culture is organizational, and which means that it has shared values and traditions that are pretty common throughout the entire region. In the same article on mourning and death, it describes rituals based on religion and tradition that are involved in the mourning and grieving processes. In the United States, we have something similar, but it's more of co-cultures, which are smaller cultures within larger cultures, but still maintain American identity. These differences seem big, but the impact is very important. First, we talked about the people, then the traditions, and finally, lifestyles and the setup of communities. As this culture continues to change and impact and shape the United States, we must learn more about this culture to live together in harmony. Thank you so much for listening to my speech, and
We have our 5 people still here.
thank you so much.